welcome enjoying your blended family for another fun Friday. And as you can see, if you're watching on the YouTubes, I have a special guest today. And this is actually my friend. So not just a special guest. Her name is Corrina. And Corrina and I have served in the youth ministry for how many years?
I started in 2014.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
You were
lot
there
of
before me.
Yes, a lot of years together. So probably at least 7 or something. And she works at a counseling office as well as their office administrator. And so she just has a lot, and you have a lot of children.
Yeah.
Three.
Three.
And she's going to give us her expertise today on gardening because I have a black thumb. She has a super awesome green thumb, and I follow her on social media besides the fact that we're friends and I know that she gardens, and she is always growing something and spending the time outdoors, even just with her hibiscus flowers that I'm very jealous of. And so I asked her, hey, will you come on? It's a little bit selfish of me, but as a fun Friday for us to talk about how to get a garden started, because I really want to start a garden. We're fixing to have this section of our backyard that would be perfect for a garden. And since I'm bad at it, I wanted to bring in an expert. And so we're going to get into it in just a second, right after this. All right, so welcome back. Now it's your turn. You're in the hot seat.
I'm in the hot seat.
You're in the hot seat. So just tell us a little bit about your family dynamics, because you're not personally a blended family.
No.
And this is a blended family.
Well, extended family's blended, so yeah, I got to interact with everybody. So yeah,
So you do have some
blended families in there, not in my own direct home, but yeah.
Yeah, in a weird way, we're actually related, kind of, because your niece is my children's cousin. Yes, we found that out just randomly. So
Hey, God works in mysterious ways and puts people in the right paths. And,
yes, you're right. So tell us a little bit about your family, like how long you've been married, how many kids you have, all that.
So exciting. Robert and I, my husband, we've been married for 21 years this coming Wednesday. So 2 more days, we have our anniversary.
21 years?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We dated for 2 years before that. So 21, 22, 23 years together. We have 3 kiddos. I have twin daughters that are going to turn, sadly, they're going to be turning 17 in May. And then my son turns 21 in May.
Man.
So, yeah.
So you're almost through the torturous teen years, but you didn't.
Yeah, but then you get the young adult working their way into adulthood years, and yeah,
that's fun too. Yeah, I just actually was talking on Instagram today about that parenting does not stop at 18, and your relationship with them doesn't just end because now they're quote unquote adults and they still need you. They still go through life stuff, and you actually, I know you have, all teenagers have some growing pains, but you actually have done a really amazing job with your 3 kids. I'm always impressed with them.
Yeah. Being a mother to teenagers was kids period was intimidating. But then as they've grown into teenagers and now young adults, it's a whole different ball game. And of course, there's no manual of oh, do it this way, do it that way. You just learn from everybody else's experience. So it's kind of been nice because your kids are older and I've seen you go through that change and oh, she's she's rolling through it and the bumps and everything, and she's still going and got this positive outlook. So I of course tune into your podcast for everything and just follow along. And I'm okay, if she can do it, I can do it.
Well, and y'all live by what we believe, which is when you spend that family time together and you bond and you connect and find those things, then you're going to get through those things. It's not that they're not going to happen, but you get through them more.
You get them easier with more of a connection and a bond, and it's not this bumpy ride. It's a little bit smoother.
Yes. Yeah. Especially when they still come to you and want to have a relationship with you. And that's key, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, a lot of 3 kids, and then we're really involved with our family. So we have nieces, nephews. I have great nieces, great nephews. And so my nieces and nephews babysat my kids. So now that they're having kids, I'm getting to return the favor, and my kids are returning, help them out too. So It's just been nice to kind of like pay it forward in a sense.
Yeah,
and
or
help
see
each
like
other
the
out.
cycle
Yeah.
come back around. Yeah, that's what I was recognizing that a while back. We're going to get into gardening, I promise. But one of our youth students that I spoke into her life as a youth student when I very first came in there, she is now at a different church, but my niece goes there and is in her youth group. And so I love seeing her post these pictures of her interacting with my niece because I was speaking into her life because she was kind of like, it was her family that she was worried about a lot, her nieces and nephews, and what was going on in their lives. And she was just, would ask for prayer a lot, and we would just pray over her nieces and nephews. So to see her now speaking into the life of my brother's kids, it's like, wow, God, you really do bring things.
You do. He like ties it all together. It's really nice. And then even like for the youth group now, like when we first started in Roots together, those kids, my first set of Roots kids are like adults, like full blown adults, and like having their own kids and getting married. And I run into them. One of them is my hairstylist now. So it's just really neat to see them grow from a stage and then to know like, hey,
yeah, and your girls were very first getting into Roots when we were in there. So yeah, to see them growing and blossoming, and your son just doing the whole adulting. So let's get into it because I need some steps. But first, before we like get into it, like into it completely, like how did y'all get started? Like, is this
so? Disclaimer: I'm not an expert. I'm a self-taught, like it's all through like experience and just like trial and error. I enjoy gardening. We had a garden growing up, out of necessity, I guess, kind of, and out of like just it was a way for us to bond as a family and do something together. So I always loved being outside. That's just me, being outside and in nature and with the sun, like even in the rain, like that's me. I love it. So what did I do? It was probably during COVID when I really picked up my gardening again. I've loved flowers, plants. That's where like I started at on my own as an adult. And then come COVID, we needed something to do to connect as a family.
Yeah.
And of course there was like the grocery shortages. And I told Robert, I'm like, hey, I'm not paying $5 for a bag of potatoes when I just grew a potato by accident. Like one day I threw scraps out and it just like started growing the little buds and stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I didn't know I could do that. And then I like took the potato out. Well, then there were like more potatoes underneath it. And I was like, really? You can grow them by accident?
That is how green her thumb is, guys.
Yeah.
That she is accidentally, because I on purpose tried to grow potatoes and it molded. So
yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, that was like I grew by accident. And then I was like, well, let's research and how to do this properly so we can get a bigger yield. And you can grow them in a bucket.
Oh, you're even using gardening terms. Get a bigger yield. Is that what you said?
Yeah. You can yield a bigger crop.
Okay.
So
okay.
I was like, okay, I want more. I need more bang for my buck. I got all these kids I got to feed, and we like to eat. So yeah, I just started Googling, and then of course it was during COVID. TikTok was big during COVID because everybody's at home and needing to connect with each other without like physically being so close. So
Yeah.
I was like, hey, cool. So yeah, there was a lot of videos on how to grow vegetables and get started, and did between TikTok and Google, I figured out how to do different things and trial and error, and I don't know, I just kind of enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it, and then we started getting, produce and fruit growing, and my nieces and nephews, kids would come over. They're littles, they're like 2, 3, so then they would come and see all of the stuff that I was doing, and I'd be like, look, there's some little baby strawberries. So instead of crying for their mom when they would go on a date or something, I'm like, let's go look at the vegetables. And let them get in the dirt, and they just enjoyed it. So it was a way to connect with them.
Yeah.
And we've built this relationship where like, oh, they know I love bugs and, plants and flowers and stuff. So they'll go and pick flowers in the yard. I call them flowers, but they're weeds. Here's a flower. And I don't know, it's just sweet
Aww.
to connect with them in that way and have that commonality because, they're learning about the world and how things grow. And
Yes,
it's
so
interesting.
definitely, I know if when they're younger, like it is just like, and that's one of the selfish reasons that I want to do this podcast and learn. Like with the grandbaby,
Yeah.
now she's fixing to be 1, and I was like, how cool would this be to have this experience with her? Like I didn't have a grandparent that grew things outside, and again, I have a black thumb, so this is gonna be hard. But my mom was really good at doing flowers. Like that's when I began to notice hibiscus, because they're such a beautiful flower, and you have a love for hibiscus.
I do.
Are they just easier to take care of, or
They're really easy to take care of, and the flowers are just so pretty, and they come in like all these like variations of colors. And then last year for our anniversary, we went to this place in like Deer Park. There's a lady out there that has this like whole operation running where she grows hibiscus like from, I guess, seeds. I've never grown anything like hibiscus related from like the bottom up. I've always just like purchased the plant and then kept it going. But yeah, she had like these wild exotic varieties. So we picked up 2 of them, and they're like a purple and a yellow. And like sometimes I guess after the sun hits it, some of the pigment goes away and the color changes of the flower.
Oh,
So like in the morning, I'll take a picture of it. It's like bright and colorful. And then come my lunchtime, it's like the color's a little dull. And then I get off of work and it's even more dull, but like it's still beautiful.
yes.
I don't know. So I love how it just changes throughout the day. And I'm like, that's like me. That's my mood in the morning. I'm fresh. I'm good. And then by, after work time, I'm just like,
Done.
I'm here. Take a picture. Get
Oh,
over
like
it.
wrinkly. I've actually made a time lapse before
That's
where
a good idea. I'm going to have to do that.
I went and sat out because I was noticing it open, like they would open in the
Yes.
morning. And then sometimes by that evening, like they're closed. I don't know if it was always in the same day or what, but I was like, this is interesting. It was just closed and now it's open. I wonder how long that actually took. And I think I sat there for 45 minutes maybe with it on the time lapse and just watched it. And it's so weird because when you're staring at it, and that's a really good analogy for your family, but when you're if you're staring at it, you don't really see it taking place. Like if you're waiting impatiently, but it's happening and you can't see the change.
Yeah.
But when you take your eyes off of it and come back, you go do something else, and then it's like, oh, it's open.
Yeah.
Like when did that happen? And so it was really cool to put that time lapse on there and then to go back and watch it. And you can see me in the background kind of like staring, looking.
Waiting.
You saw the cat come in, the cat go out, like all this stuff. And
Yeah.
then it opens and it's just, they're beautiful.
They are.
So do you transplant yours into the ground or you leave them in the pot?
I did, and you can. And I'm sure for those who are like really good at keeping hibiscus alive, they have really good success with it. I don't. I have had to replace them twice already because I plant them in the ground and they grow big and beautiful and they produce all these flowers. But then we get those freezes.
Texas freeze that happens.
Yes, and then they die, and I'm like, I just spent $30 on one plant, and it grew all year long. And come January, February, it's dead, and here I go back to the nurseries buying another one.
Well, I don't feel as bad then because the routine that we have is my mother-in-law usually for Mother's Day will buy me a couple, sometimes 3 different big hibiscus, not big hibiscus trees, but a good size, and all different color ones, and I will do so good taking care of it. I will water it and all this. It usually survive through the summer and still have blossoms, just be beautiful. And then that freeze will happen, and sometimes I'll even be good enough to take them into the garage or have Randall hey, can we bring the hibiscus in? And then we'll forget it in the garage. It dies. I'm
man.
no. But both of them outside right now by the pool. Neither one of them have flowers on them, but they both have green, and that's from last year. That's the longest.
You've been able to keep them out?
We'll see what happens because I thought one
They'll
was
grow back.
dead, and it looks like it's trying to come back alive.
Yeah, they do. They try to come back alive. So the ones that we bought last year for our anniversary, I put them in a black pot inside of a decorative pot.
Okay.
And then I fill up the bottom of the pot with water just to keep it generating. They need a lot of water, but they don't want to sit in the water because they get soggy and they'll drown. They're temperamental like that. But what I do is I take the black pot out when it's cold, or if it gets too hot in the summer because we get that scorching heat and they don't like that either. So I'll take them inside and keep them inside. So I have this little area of my kitchen that becomes like a jungle essentially because I put all my plants in there. So that way they're protected from, the sun,
See, and I'm scared to do that because
hurricane.
the bugs. Do you put something on them?
No.
And they just don't have any.
I've never had a problem with it. because I'll get the water hose and like when I know the weather's coming, I'll spray off the like containers and like I don't know.
Okay. I feel like they always have these little tiny green bugs on them, and I'm like,
I've never noticed that.
And Randall's so weird about. Sorry, Randall, when you edit this, but he don't like bugs. I mean, I don't like bugs either.
And I like bugs, so they probably wouldn't even bother me. I'd be like, oh, look at this cute bug. Let me put it on Instagram.
Yeah, so, yeah. So I'm kind of weird.
But
like
I do
too.
have this bottle. It's what is in there? I'm trying to think. Dawn dish soap and olive oil or vegetable oil, I want to say. And then you put the red chili pepper seasoning in there, and you shake it up. And you're supposed to spray it on your plants, and it's supposed to like deter pests, so the bugs and things.
Okay.
And it keeps them from eating your leaves, so that way you don't get like the holes all over them.
Yeah. Okay.
And it helps. So I do spray them like not every day, probably like once every couple of weeks or so. I go through, spray everything, and it kind of keeps them from getting eaten alive.
Do you use that in your garden as well? Mm-hmm. So on both.
Yeah. So it's like a natural pesticide, I guess, or natural like pest repellent. Because we eat our vegetables, and I'm like, I don't want to sit there and wash vegetables. I'm lazy. Like, let me just run them through and be done with it.
Yeah. So I'll have to get like what you do exactly. Maybe we can make like a reel or something when this episode's coming out, because that would be interesting. Because I've heard people ask those questions before, and that was my thing. Is like, I don't want to spray like unnatural stuff on there either, especially when the plant one thing, but then when you're doing it to your food that you're trying to eat. Yeah. And so, okay, so right after this break, we're going to come back and we're going to get into the, like, I'm a newbie with a black thumb.
Okay.
What is the first thing that I'm going to do to get this garden going? And then we'll talk about at the end of that, like, how to get the family involved and ways that you've seen it help your family grow and connect because of gardening. So be ready for that. Come right back after this.
It's time to have some more blended family fun. Yeah, are you ready?
What was that?
I've been really working on this song. What do you think?
Sure. It's great, babe.
Well, it goes along with how to enjoy your blended family. You know, the 5 dates to discover fun in your step family, the greatest thing since sliced bread for blended families.
Okay, I get it now. I feel your excitement, but why don't you tell them about it instead of singing it to them?
Wow, okay, shut me down. Why don't you? All right, let me try. When you have more fun together, you see less blended family drama. But we can get so caught up in life and problems that we miss out on really enjoying our family. So we'll walk you through 5 dates where you'll discover more fun your family loves and have a great plan to keep it going. How's that?
Pretty good. Short and sweet. I know that got them way more excited about all the fun possibilities they can experience with their family than your song did.
What? Seriously?
Well, you could have also told them that it not only creates more fun in their whole family doing this, but it also adds more fun in their marriage and gives them new ways to connect with their kids individually. It's also great for building that step-parent relationship. You could have said all that too.
I don't think you really appreciated all the work that I put in on that song.
Anyways, How to Enjoy Your Blended Family, 5 Dates to Discover Fun in Your Step Family is available for you today. Discover more fun and you'll see less problems. The link to get started is in the show notes of this episode.
Have more fun with your blended family and go on these 5 dates today. You'll be so glad you did. Yeah, yeah.
Really? You had to go there again. Let's get back to this episode. All right, so we are back, and I'm excited for this part. I'm going to follow this step by step. So if I don't succeed, it's all on you,
It's
Corrina.
all on me. Okay.
It's all on you.
Let me think.
So here we go. So here's what's fixing to happen, just so you guys can follow my journey too and listen to this podcast and be like, this is what she was working with. So, and Corrina is also my friend that likes to do things on on the discount or
Oh, yeah.
yeah, she's not one that's going to go just spend all of this money on all of this expensive stuff. So I wanted us to also talk about that, like things you need, necessity and stuff like that. But we have this section of the side of our house that's fixing to be fenced in, like as of next week or whatever. So this is the very beginning stages, and we were kind of bummed because we were going to be staring out. We have to do dishes all the time, which sucks, doing dishes. And we stare out the window when we're doing dishes. And that's kind of like therapy to me, is look out the window. Well, now we're going to have a fence that we're going to be staring at. So once we heard that, we were like, dang, the neighbors are putting their fence all the way up. We don't want to do that. We don't want to stare and all this stuff. So then we started talking about, ooh, what if we turn it into a garden area and like a flower garden, a rose garden, hibiscus, whatever, and then actually grow stuff. Yeah. Then it's this place that we could even have like a prayer garden. And we started like, Riley started saying we could have like a koi pond. Like she was going all in. She was like,
I'm up for that.
I'm like, girl, if you know how to do that, but I can't. I only keep things alive that say feed me. And so that's why plants don't usually survive with me, is because they don't talk, but they actually do. When they start to shrivel, it's time. They're saying, that's what I've learned with my houseplants anyways, that they're like, hello, I'm here. You need to pay attention to me.
Yes.
So I'm starting out with just ground. Like,
okay,
what do you recommend? Because like our neighbors have this raised thing. I've seen people use, like you're actually digging in the ground and making it. Like, tell me the process.
So I do not like to spend a lot of money. So when I started getting into gardening, I was like, what could I do? Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, our soil does not look like it's nutrient rich, you know? So I told Robert, like, hey, we got to do something because I want to grow fruit and vegetables. And he's like, okay. He's my, like, make it happen type of guy. So I dream it and he builds it. And what we did was, I also wanted to be environmentally friendly. So we have all these pallets at our disposal because he works for this like distribution company and they put everything on pallets. So he had all these pallets on the side of his building one day, and I was looking on Facebook and TikTok and everywhere, and they're like, oh, you can repurpose the pallets. So that's what we did. We took some pallets home and he disassembled them, and literally, like, it's just a square, right? And they have these boards on there. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, I think, that it come vertically like this. So what we did was we removed every other top board.
Okay.
And we put this plastic at the bottom. You could also put like mesh
inside it.
You flip it over. So
both sides of the pallets have the same amount of
no,
boards?
one side has
is like more empty, right?
Yeah, one is more empty and one is like the boards are closer together. So like this is the pallet, and
you got to go watch on YouTube if you want to see this.
This would be the back, and it has the boards that come across. So you take off like every other one, so it'll leave like a gap. So like in a garden, you know how they have like the rows?
Yes.
So it creates a row. And then on the flip side of it, we put, I did tarp, and I cut holes in it for drainage because you don't want them to stay soaking wet. But it also keeps away the weeds. I'm lazy. I don't want to weed. So the plastic tarp was perfect for me. You could use trash bag. I've done trash bags.
You staple it on there?
You staple it, yeah.
Okay.
You staple it on it.
The big
and
staplers.
You cut holes. So I just got like scissors because I always keep scissors. I love to clip plant pieces. So if you have a nice garden and you ever see a Mexican girl out there with scissors, that's me. I'm admiring your plants and taking a clipping because they grow. Like a lot of them, you put them in water and they just regenerate roots.
My daughter-in-law works at McDonald's, and she said that there was someone out there cutting their plant.
It wasn't me, I promise. But yeah, Buc-ee's has some really pretty plants, and I'm like, oh, I want to go get some plants while I get my coffee.
Okay, I'm really excited about even finding other people's plants, or maybe I can just take some of yours when I get started. So, and we'll have to make some videos, like a how-to little tutorials, either TikToks and Reels, and put them out there when this episode comes out of how to make this palette, because I'll find some palettes somewhere and I'll work through this.
I bring one, and Robert has a whole bunch of them. So I can bring one and we can like do a demonstration, and that way you can put it in your yard.
Yes. Okay. So then we can do that. So you take the bag, you staple it around.
Cut holes for drainage.
You got to have the holes in there. Just like stab holes, like not like big old holes or anything.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then if you go to the like Lowe's and stuff, they have really good sales around this time of the year because it's spring. Everybody's planting things. Yeah. So your soil is not too bad price range wise. But I get, so I mix it. I do Miracle Grow because it has like all the nutrients and things and the fertilizer. And then I also get like regular,
the cheap
the
soil?
cheap potting soil that's like filler dirt, I guess, kind of, basically,
Yeah.
because there's nothing, like, not a whole lot of nutrients in there. And I mix them.
Is that the same as mulch? Because our city, actually, you can get mulch. So that's
You can
not
get
good. Okay.
mulch from the city, but if you are allergic to poison ivy or like poison oak and stuff, be very careful, because what they do is they take all the big limbs that you throw out on like big trash day, and they grind it up and make their mulch that way. But it's free if you live in Lake Jackson. Bring your driver's license. They give you like a whole trailer load full.
Yeah,
of
and
mulch.
if our city does it, other people might. But that's
yeah.
good. We've used it in the front to do that. You saw that really crappy garden. Not,
I didn't
garden.
look at it, but no.
There's nothing there because I kill everything up there too.
Okay.
But I always try. So we might have to do
Yeah.
a whole like episode on planting flowers as well. Or maybe I can take some of this and roll with it on both of these things.
Yeah.
So you get soil.
And I mixed it with the Miracle-Gro.
Miracle-Gro, okay.
And then I put it inside of the pallet. And then I just buy, so you can grow seeds, of course, to make your own vegetables. I'm not really good with seeds because there's some seeds where you have to stick them in water to like take off the like outside casing of the seed to help it grow and like germinate better. I don't have the time for that.
A friend from our church, that's what he does. He has this whole like garage with lights and cups and all of that.
This year I did that.
Okay.
This year I did. And I found like on TikTok, of course, like I said, to use materials as much as I can. So we did milk jugs, fill it with dirt. You cut it in half, like where the handle is at. And you put your seeds in there, cover it with dirt. Of course, make your drainage holes. And I put duct tape around the side of it, like packing tape, the yellow tape. And I wrote a marker, green beans. I put the date that I put it in there. And then I wrote the date down that I'm supposed to like be able to transplant it. And I put them all on my back porch. And then I just watered them and checked the dates every day to see like, hey, is it time to move these green beans over here?
And so those started out as just straight up
seeds.
Seeds that you went to the store and bought green bean seeds. Okay.
I did that with like, so this year, every year it changes because I get adventurous sometimes and I'd use what I know works. But this year I did green beans. I did bell peppers. I did tomatoes. What else did I do? Cilantro. I can't grow that. I'm bad at cilantro.
See, and I want to do herbs.
And
That's
I love
what I was
cilantro.
like, oh, let me start with some herbs. I didn't know if
Basil. I did pretty good with basil. I've done eggplants. We actually have cucumbers growing. I have some pumpkins growing, watermelons. Now, I say all this because that's what I started with.
Okay.
But if you don't pay attention to them and water them and weed them and like make sure they're not sitting in water, they're going to die on you. And that's what some of them did do. So a lot of them made it. Like I'm not very neat with it. I just get the bucket, fill it up with the dirt, put the seeds, more dirt. You're supposed to like space them out.
Okay.
Typically you'd get rows and space them out and then they would grow and you wouldn't have to transplant them a whole lot and move them around because they get shocked if you do a lot of movement.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I just threw them in there. So they started to grow. And what I did was I picked up the ones that were like really stable and healthy. And I took those out and transplanted them and made sure they were good into the pallet.
The pallet that you already had.
That already had assembled.
Did you already have it all the way full with the soil and then you dig a little
like
hole in it?
3/4 of the way.
Okay.
And then I just dig a hole. I stick my finger in there and like wiggle it around, put the plant in and like shove the dirt around them to like give it more of like a support system. Because a lot of the plants you'll see that they have their stem. It's really like wobbly because they grow really tall first because they want to get to the sun. So they grow really tall. And if you don't support the stem at the bottom, they're going to like get lopsided on you.
Okay,
and
so
a lot of them will get...
I know this because of we plant like a pinto bean seed at pre-K because we want them to grow something and those grow really easy and fast. That and sunflowers. And yeah, you do see that it shoots up, but then by the time we send it home, it's like bending over. So what is the budget-friendly way of, and resourceful as far as like reusing?
Resourceful. Here you go. I have a whole bunch of, what are they called? Not sugar cane. They are, what is that? Bamboo. We have a whole lot of bamboo in our backyard.
Why do you have a bunch of bamboo?
When we bought our house, people had like, I guess the neighbors planted bamboo because it makes like a really good natural privacy fence, but it spreads like crazy. So it grew on our side as well. And we don't really care for it because that's where I have my like real pretty flowers. So we took out a lot of it out. Well, then we have all these like bamboo sticks sitting around the yard. And I'm like, we'll use them to stake our plants. So that's what I do. I get like my really big plants that need to be staked. And I get the bamboo and I just break it in half with my knee. stick it in the ground, and then I get like twine. You can use the zip ties from your bread. You can buy the really cute like plastic, I don't know, like figure 8 type things.
Oh, okay.
They're like little clamps that you put around your plant to stabilize them. I'm cheap. I just use string,
Whatever string
twine,
you have available.
bread ties.
Bread ties, yeah.
Just
anything,
to
all
like
the extra,
stabilize it a little bit and give it some support so that it can grow and produce the fruit and not like die on you.
So you do that first. So say you have your row in your pallet, you take those green beans, and you have probably
The green
a
beans, I
handful
haven't
of
really
them.
had to stake those. It's more like your bigger plants. Like if I grew, say for instance, corn in that pallet, it's going to need to stake because your pallet's really shallow. Like you're looking at like, what is that? I don't know, like 4 or 5 inches like in depth.
Okay, yeah.
So you have to really like build the mound. So say that's your plant, you're going to really have to put like dirt like right at the base of it to keep it stabilized.
So you're growing straight up like, have you grown corn?
Not yet, but I need to. That's my next project.
So like there is enough room though, so that if you're growing
Yeah, you can plant it in there.
the potatoes, or have you grown the potatoes?
My potatoes, I
on
put them in a
purpose?
bucket. Yeah. I have some growing right now. I'll have to show you pictures and like do like a little
I've done
garden
a sweet potato during COVID.
I tried and failed.
I was successful with that.
I tried and failed.
I mean, I waited
so
a whole
hard.
year, and this big of a like
Really?
it was so tiny of a sweet potato, but like 3 of them grew from it. And I tried to make a miniature sweet potato pie. But my rations were like my ratio for all the other stuff. It didn't turn out, and I didn't have a tiny pie tin. And instead of going to the store because it was like the day before Thanksgiving, and I didn't want to like handle like the grocery store like that, so I tried to make my own, and it was just a disaster. And I feel like I grew that thing for a whole year.
I remember seeing pictures of it, and it started to vine, real pretty. I love the vines.
That is why I started the sweet potato, because my aunt, like during that time, my grandma had passed and stuff, and my aunt started living in my grandma's house, and she would tell me how her grandma would grow from potatoes and sweet potatoes. She would chop the potato top off and then put it in water with some toothpicks to hold it in like a mason jar, and it would start to sprout, and you would have this beautiful vine that she would use as her plant in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that sounds cool. If she can do it, this would be my Mimi was the one that did it. And I was like, well, if I want to do that, because I'm super cheap, I don't want to buy plants, I killed them, I can just take one of my sweet potatoes or my potatoes, and I've been successful with the sweet potatoes, all 3 of them. And then I transplanted them, and I was able to have these beautiful vines growing from it. And I was like, they had like some little bit of red tint, I feel like, to it as well. But then I tried with regular potatoes, and they just got nasty, soggy, and they smelled so bad in the water. So with you do them in the bucket. Like, do you start them in the house in the water?
Yes. So I take my potatoes. We eat a lot of potatoes, but there are times where we don't finish them all. And so they'll sit in the pantry. And if you ever notice, like if you left them there too long, or you go away for a little bit and come back, and they have like these little buds starting to grow.
Yes.
So what you do is you cut the potato and you cut it in sections to where those little buds are just like, so you have a potato, you cut all the little buds out. And then you can plant the buds in the dirt, and it'll make like its own, like that's its own plant right there, and it'll produce a whole bunch of potatoes.
So that one potato, you're getting however many sprouts off, you're getting that many.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and you go straight in the dirt. You don't do the whole in the water in the house and stuff.
Not with the potatoes, no. I just put those, I get a 5-gallon bucket. We have a whole bunch of them. And I put like, I don't know, about 6 inches or so of dirt. And then I push the potato down. You want the eyes to be like kind of towards the surface, but not like a whole lot.
Yeah.
So I just push them down maybe like halfway, and then make sure they're all covered. And then you lightly water them. And you'll start to see, like, they start to grow. Like, they'll grow a little plant. Like, each little bud turns into a plant, essentially. So then what you have to do is you have to keep adding dirt and keep adding dirt. And every time it grows and you start seeing, like, okay, it's starting to get really lengthy, put more dirt. And once you get to the top of the bucket, usually around that time, I think it takes, don't get me lying, we planted ours in January. And I want to say by April, which now, April, May, I'm supposed to have potatoes. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time.
I wonder why my sweet potatoes took a whole year.
Yeah, the potatoes just grow really quick.
It wasn't a whole year, because I started it in the summer because we had interviewed one of our root students that was graduating, but because it was COVID, we had to go to his house, and they had all of these, and I was just amazed. And so that was May, and so by Thanksgiving, I guess. So it really was like a half a year.
Especially if you're only going to get like 3 sweet potatoes.
That
I
was
don't know. That's a lot of labor for.
But I also
3 little potatoes.
might have not done it right. So
I can't get them to roast. I couldn't tell you. I tried, and
So
mine
do
just
you-
molded.
So that whole bucket, you're getting potatoes in just a
Oh,
few months. You
yeah.
said.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
They start
Okay.
to get flowers.
That y'all are actually eating. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh yeah, they're starting. They'll get flowers, and once the flowers come out, that's how you know that they're ready to
Okay.
harvest.
And you just go pull it up.
Oh yeah, you just dig them in there, and there's going to be from each plant you'll get. I think it's estimated to where you get like, you know, you go to the store and you get like the 3-pound bag of potatoes. You're supposed
Yeah.
to get like half to maybe a full like 3-pound bag of potatoes from just like one little plant. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm really excited.
But because it's a 5-gallon bucket, I'm not going to get that because they're
true.
narrow. So if
Sure.
you get, there's like big tubs. I saw some guy on TikTok. It's like a big blue tub, like kind of what you use for laundry. It has
Okay.
like the little rope handles, but it's wide, right? And
Oh,
it's
okay,
deep.
yeah, yeah.
He got a whole lot of potatoes out of that thing. And I was
Okay.
like, you know what? Next year,
Gonna
I'm stepping
try
my
that.
game up. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I have so many questions, and I'm like, I feel like we're probably already, we're at 30 minutes already. So I've got to like really be selective because
Yeah.
we could do a whole nother.
I would grow whatever you're going to eat. So for us, we love tomatoes. We got 3 plants last year and stuck them in the
So
ground.
tomatoes are easy. The
Oh,
baby
yeah.
tomatoes or the big tomatoes?
I buy them at Lowe's. I just go and buy the plant because it's easier that way. I think they had like a sell on them. So we bought 3 plants. They were already established. They were like maybe like a foot high. Dug ground, like our regular ground. We didn't do anything to the ground. We just dug a hole, stuck them in there, and watered them really well. And they grew so big. They were taller than me. I'm 5'1" 3/4. Give me my 3/4. And they were taller than me. And we would get like a whole bunch of tomatoes off of them.
And that was from a tree that you planted into the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Tomatoes
so
are
if-
easy.
So tomatoes, and then what about with the pallets? What do you recommend as a starter? I don't want to grow anything. I was telling her beforehand, I don't want to grow anything that I'm not going to eat. Like I heard radishes are easy to grow. I buy radishes for recipes and don't even put them in there because I don't like to eat them.
Yeah.
So what would be like my starter in the pallets?
We like bell peppers. You could do bell peppers in the
We love
palette.
bell peppers, yeah.
I
Colored.
have green beans in there now because
Okay.
I just need something for the roots. The green beans come off of like the leaves. They
grow up
hang
top,
down.
okay.
Yeah, so those are perfect for that.
So not the things that have to grow underground like carrots
Yes,
or potatoes, but the things that'll shoot up. That's enough room for
Yeah.
them to grow.
I've grown cucumbers from there and got a pretty good sized cucumber off of it.
Have you tried zucchini or squash?
No. So I have this idea to use the palette because the zucchini and squash, like they vine and then they hang
Oh,
down.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can use the palette to support the plant. You can start the plant at the bottom of the palette and just like incline it against your fence.
Okay.
And it'll grow on top of the thing. And then of course, like the fruit will hang down. And because the fruit is like, I call it the fruit, the vegetable is hanging over. The palette supports it so it doesn't get too big and droopy and fall off and rot.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
probably like level 3, maybe.
It sounds a lot more complicated. Like honestly, you just have to go out there and just try things. It's
Yeah.
all trial and error. We grow the things
Yeah,
that
because
we
what do
want
you have
eat.
to lose, really? I mean, we
Yeah.
have grocery stores, so we can go get the
Our
food if we actually need
strawberries,
to.
they've grown. They lasted through the freeze.
And you use the pallets for the strawberries? Okay.
Robert actually built me a whole greenhouse out of pallets and some like sheets of metal. I don't know what it's called. He could tell you the word for it, but it's got like these like bumps in it, so it's really pretty. He's got like
Okay.
mesh wiring on it. And yeah, I have boxes on the side of it made out of repurposed wood, like from wood projects that we use around the house. Builds the deck and there's extra wood, puts it to the side, and I find a use for it and build me a box with this. I'll show him a picture. Look what I saw on TikTok, and he's like, okay, and he builds it.
Okay.
So yeah, we've grown our strawberries in that. He just built a box out of wood that we had.
Is there certain times a year where we need, like, have we already, if this episode comes out in like a couple of weeks, we've missed the springtime?
You've missed the spring stuff, but there's a lot of things because we're in Texas. We're in Lake Jackson, so our weather is really different than most places. So our like winter season really doesn't hit until January. From like January to March. Here we are in April. We just had a cold front, and it was like really cold.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's where you get like your really cold times, and there's some things that don't grow very well in cold.
Okay.
But like your strawberries,
So for this, when did you start this garden?
the stuff I'm
right
growing now.
Yeah.
I started that in January. I grew it inside from seeds.
Okay. And then
I haven't
when
bought
did you,
anything at the store this year that's like for my garden to plant.
Okay.
I've grown everything on my own.
Oh, wow. See, yeah,
Yeah.
you're level 2 now. I
Yeah.
consider that level 2.
Last year I was level 1. Like, let's see what we can do. what I can keep alive. Yeah.
Okay.
What my family's going to eat.
So y'all will eat this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I've heard from our church friend that's also like kind of our neighbor, he takes it all down at summertime and like lets the ground have like time to
like reset itself, because you want of course, like the roots and the root systems from the plants that you're growing, like all are going to be in there, but you want it to, what's the word?
Yeah,
like decompose, and you want the nutrients to be fed back into the soil. So you got to like till it up, move it around, make sure the dirt's like able to breathe and get some oxygen in there. So the nutrients like really situate really well in there. And that way you can use that same dirt for your next crop.
Okay. So then you wouldn't plant during the summer, but you would plant again starting.
Probably, what are we, June, July? I'd probably say like July-ish.
Okay.
I'll let it like, because we'll probably be able to harvest a lot of the stuff here within the next month or so. And then I'll give it a break. And then probably July, I'll start some more seeds. Because there's a lot of things that we can grow through our winter, like winter months here. Like the typical would be like what, October, November, December area.
Yeah.
But it's still warm here. So a lot of the things you can still kind of grow. Your tomatoes are going to generate and generate and generate until it freezes and they die.
Okay.
So
Even if I wanted to try tomatoes right now, do you think I would have success?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We haven't even started our tomatoes yet, to be honest with you. Because
that's what I'll start with. I want to start with something that's like, oh, let me grow this so I can eat it. And and I don't know if
and because you're going to start this area over here, you could even do, they call like companion gardening. So you grow your vegetables and then you grow flowers next to it or herbs, and it deters pests. So I know there's, what is it?
Okay.
Nasturtium, maybe. I'll have to get a list. I have a list at the house written down of stuff
to partner them with.
Yes, like your tomatoes, your basil, you can plant those next to each other. And the flavor is just like, they just do their magic. And so you're going to get more flavorful produce because they're next to plants that, help nourish one another. And so, yeah, those are two, like basil and tomato. You can grow mint, cilantro, all of those things. Lemongrass, I want to say, is one that you can grow in there, and that keeps away pests too. Cats, if you have,
grow it in the actual.
You can grow it in the dirt. You can grow
or beside it.
Beside it, yeah. Okay. Most people have like an actual garden in their yard.
Hey, we're not being most.
And
people.
You plant them next to each other. So you plant a row of this, and you plant a row of that.
Oh, okay.
Or you plant like plant a row of this, and then you have your companion plants at the end. I have a lot of stuff either in like boxes that we've like rebuilt, or actual like plastic containers, so you can just like situate them next to each other. Okay.
See, guys, we're not living in the country. We live in the city. Like, we are house to house to house. So this is like, we're giving you the tips. I mean, if you're listening to this and you like have a farm, you got a whole nother level. But we're doing. If
you're in a balcony in an apartment, you can grow a lot of different things in like little containers. And if you have kids, like it's a good way to teach them, like, you have to nourish things and put effort into them to get results. So if you want to learn something, you have to try. You have to practice. You have to, keep at it. So if you want to grow something, you have to pay attention to it. You have to water it, make sure it's getting enough sunlight. And then the benefit of it is you get produce, you get a flower, you get...
Yeah, so
it's
it's
responsibility.
Really...
Better than a cat or a fish or a dog.
Well, and really you can just have that bonding. So let's move into that, because I feel like I still have more questions, and maybe when I get
part 2 one day.
Yeah, part 2, or maybe we can do some Instagram lives or something while we're actually doing it as we work through this. But how does your family use this as connecting? Because here at Enjoying Your Blended Family, we're very big on finding things. Say start with your common interests. So if your kids like being outside, this is one way. If your kids like plants, like I think probably 3 out of my 4 children like plants and being outside. So how do y'all use this to connect and bond?
So like I said, my husband is the guy who makes the dreams come true. So that's a way for us to bond. I show him what I like and what my vision is, and then he puts it together. And then I'm very independent, and he like fosters that too. So he'll be like, here's the drill, like drill these things. Okay. I helped him build a fence.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a month or 2 ago. So that was fun. And he let me do all the like drilling of
You're such a good wife.
Screws and stuff. And
to
I'm like,
want to do that.
I like to do hands-on things. Like it gives me this sense of pride. Like I did that. I made that grow. I built that. Like I did it. So yeah, that's been nice. But then my kids too, like I guess from the time that they were little, we've always been involved with outdoor things, and I love bugs. I'm just like a nerd like that. I love science and bugs and life cycles of things. That's just my area. Like, I love that stuff. So from the time that they were little, I'm like, oh, this is a caterpillar, you know, it turns into a butterfly.
Yeah.
And so we go outside, and rather than just playing sports, I'm like, if you find the little not June bugs, what are they called? Chichatas?
No, you have to explain what a chichata is.
What are they called? Cicadas or something like
Oh,
that?
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so in Spanish, they're called chicharas. So when
They
they were
look for the
little,
shells
the
or
little
the-
shells, I would
Okay,
pay
yeah.
them 25 cents for every shell that they would find. And it got them
Just
outside
searching. Okay.
and looking and finding things. So they would come in with like 4 of them. Well, here's your $1, you know? And then we would just keep them. I mean like this. I smash them. Once I get a pile, I like the sound of the crunching.
Oh, you like that?
So
What is
I
that?
smash
What is it?
ASMR.
ASMR.
Yes. So they bring me the shells. I smash them and enjoy the sound, but I don't let them see that. So they've always done that. So now with the plants, they come outside and they're like, Mom, did you see you have strawberries? Did you see you have grapes? Last year we had grapes and the birds got to them. Our berries, same thing. We'd have like 2 big blackberry bushes.
Yeah.
And we made a whole like blackberry pie for Thanksgiving last year.
Okay.
Because we just save them. You pick them, put them in a freezer bag, and they stay the whole year. So come Thanksgiving, you take out that big old 5-gallon, or not 5-gallon, 3-gallon bag.
Yeah.
And you make a whole pie out of it.
Huh.
But yeah, you have to cover it because the birds will eat it.
That was no, we didn't get to that as well. So what do you cover them with?
There's this cloth at Lowe's or Home Depot you could find, and you just drape it. So we have of course, like a wooden greenhouse, and we just staple the cloth to the wood and then drape it. And because the birds can't see the color because it's brown, it matches the palette. They don't mess with my plants.
You keep them draped always, or you take it off
when
during
the fruit
day
starts
and
to
then-
come out. I'll drape it.
So in the
and
day, it's
then-
fine to be covered. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then at night you can uncover it. So probably when I go to work about 9 o'clock, I'll come and look and see if there's a lot of berries on it. I'll pick what's good, leave it up because a lot of them are going to be like pinkish maroon, and you want them to get black. So I'll leave it up so that way they can get the sunlight during the day, and then I come home at lunchtime and I go out there and look and see. Multiple times a day I go out there and see what's ready to be picked. Because if you leave it out there when it's dark purple, the birds are going to get it.
They're gonna come get it. Okay.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it has to have sun, otherwise it's not going to get the color. So you don't want to keep it covered all the time. But just be really vigilant about going out and pick. And that's where like the nieces and the nephews come in handy. I have all these little hands that come out.
So they like to go
And they're
out
like,
there.
hey, Corrina, let's go see what we have. And they'll go outside and here's your berries. Here's your flowers. So it helps.
So the kids, they probably helped a lot more when they're younger. Do they still help as teenagers? They like to go out there and
Yeah, they'll be like, Mom, you have some tomatoes. They'll come back with a shirt full of tomatoes or peppers, whatever I'm growing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Nice. So do you have any like story or memory that sticks out of like just this like sweet moment that you've had with them while y'all were gardening? I didn't ask you that ahead of time so to get your
No.
brain going.
No, because there's always so many like little moments like that with my own kids. It's more been like the nieces and nephews. So we just reconnected with my nephew. There was like a period of like 5 years where we didn't get to like visit with them and things because they moved out of town and there's just a lot of different things going on. But we reconnected recently and he came over. I've been spending like once a month. He'll come over for a weekend and I introduced him to gardening. And he went to school and they made like pinto bean plants, like you said, the project.
yeah.
And he came over when I picked him up one day. He's like, hey, Corrina, I have a plant for you. And he showed me his little bean plant. And I'm like, well, you keep it here, take care of it, and send me pictures. Like, I want to see what kind of beans you get.
Yes.
So he's like really excited about it.
And how old is he?
He just turned 6.
Okay, I was thinking he was like a
Yeah,
kindergarten or
he'll be
something.
7 in August. So yeah, he's really excited about gardening. And then my little nieces and nephews, they get into it. The 2-3-year-old, when they were around that age, they would get super excited and try to eat my
That's so
berries when they're red. And I'm like, you're gonna have diarrhea. You have to be very careful with it. Don't eat produce before it's ready.
Is
Or
that what
fruit.
happens? It gives you
Yeah,
diarrhea?
you can have really bad upset stomach problems from it. Like grapes and things, if you eat them and they're not ready, upset stomach.
Thank you for
And then
sharing
they're bitter.
that. Okay.
So that's how you can kind of tell too from your fruit. It's like it'll be bitter or it's not as like juicy and plump. Yeah, our house came with orange trees. We had a lemon tree. And then we've bought avocado trees.
Have you been
Haven't
successful
had
with
any avocados yet. They grow back every year after the freeze, but they die with the freeze. So we haven't had any
Oh, you haven't had enough
avocados.
time there for them to.
Yeah. Every
Okay.
year we get a freeze, and it's like they're very temperamental like that.
Because that's planted in the ground.
And they grow big. Like I think the last time we had really big avocado trees, they were like 15 feet tall.
Wow.
Like
so you
10,
cover
15
it and
feet.
it still doesn't survive?
This past year, they didn't grow that tall. They grew like maybe 8 foot. And I'm probably exaggerating with that 15 foot. This year, they were about 8 foot. They were taller than my husband, and he's like 6 something. And we covered them, and we put like stuff around the base to protect the root system. They died. All the leaves fell off, and you have to chop the wooden part so that way the green parts can grow. Because some of it's still going to be green, and it'll regenerate and make a whole new like
Yeah.
tree. But
Man, I have so many more questions. I love avocado too. If I could actually grow that, and I want to grow jalapeno because Randall loves jalapenos.
Okay.
And so you'll have to walk me through this, and we'll just share our journey on Instagram and TikTok as we're going through it. So even after this podcast comes out, like as we're going through the process of this. But I do want us to, we're already at like 50 minutes. Who would have thought that we'd record 50 minutes?
kept going too.
Yes. We could have definitely. I have so many more questions, even just flowers and plants and all of that as well.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to point out is I love that you said that it's a lot of little moments with your kids that you experience. And then another thing that Corrina and Rob, her husband, are also very diligent about connecting. How we say like your marriage is priority, like in your family. You have to be intentional with that. And I love watching your social media, seeing y'all go out on dates. They'll go on even like a longer road trips, not just what's here local, but you'll see that they're like 2 hours away, 3 hours away, that they'll take time to do this together. I remember even y'all would work out together. Y'all would go for runs together.
Oh, yeah.
And prioritizing that marriage relationship. And that, friends, is how you make it to 21 years of marriage. Yeah. So that this is their first marriage, but so that this marriage for you guys is your last marriage. My neighbor, she said something yesterday, like she's been married several times, and she said, yeah, but this is number last. Like, this is the last one.
You're gonna bother each other, and like, there's sometimes where I don't want to be around them, and I'm going outside with my plants. And so my plants have been a way to escape.
It's
My
also like
garden's a
your
way to
time
escape.
too.
It's my time for me. I get to be outside, and it's good for your mental health. I mean, you'll see if you start small, even with just one vegetable or one plant, like it's going to give you a sense of joy and accomplishment.
And probably purpose too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I love you even saying that, like it is good for your mental health, because it is like being outside for one is going to make you like your mental health better, but having this thing that you have to get out of bed for and that you have to go check on.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And then the excitement that you get. And when you have just pretty things around, I know the hibiscus truly brings me joy looking at those beautiful flowers. So this is like for yourself, this is something that you can do as your marriage, like them coming together and using their skill sets to come together and bond, and also with your children and even your extended family, probably even like your neighbors, because you might have
Oh, yeah, we
extra
share produce and
then-
vegetables and stuff with our neighbors all the time.
Yeah, so that way of like connecting. So many different things that you can take gardening. Even if you have, this episode is for you guys that are cheap like me and have a black thumb, you can do this too. And if you live in a city where, I guess we're called like a suburb or something. What are we called?
Probably.
I don't know. We're not like a big city, but we're not a
We're
country
not like a little
either.
country town either. Like, we have them all.
Yeah, it's like a little mix there.
We're mall. We're
So
fancy. We're
regardless if what your ground looks like
Yeah.
you can make this happen. So follow along with our journey if you want to try this too. Start putting into some of Corrina's things. I'll tag her so you have her social media. She also has a TikTok that she recently started called Growing Through It. Right?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So that she's been doing, which is another episode that's fixing to come out, that we talk about art therapy. So she's going to stick around here for a minute. We're going to record this other episode. And this page that she has, when I originally asked her to be on the podcast, was because of her art therapy she does. And then I started seeing her posting her plants, and I was like, oh, yes, I can get her for both, get a twofer. So using this as for that mental health as well. Like, there's just so many benefits. So follow her on TikTok. Is it just TikTok?
Yeah.
Just TikTok, Growing Through It, and we'll put those links on there, and you can follow her journey. And I bet now that she has some people going to be looking, she might make sure she's putting these little things are very important. All the little things I'm asking you about, all of that would make really good some content on there so that people could.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, you can probably find it somewhere else, but this way it's all in one spot. You just go get it from there. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and tag us, hashtag enjoying your blended family, hashtag growing through it, and let us know when you're doing these little projects so that we can like just applaud you and cheer you on as well. And until next time, y'all remember to enjoy your blended family. Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has been a blessing and encouraged your family journey.
Make sure you stay connected with us and join our weekly Blended Family newsletter. We send an email out every Friday morning full of support and encouragement.
And when you join, we also want to give you a free gift. So go get yours today. The link is in the show notes below.
Have an amazing day. Remember to enjoy the journey with your blended family, and we'll see you on the next episode.